My beloved child, have you ever felt that strange moment when everything seems normal on the surface, yet deep inside your heart, you sense that a story is unfolding somewhere beyond your sight? Tonight, I want you to listen carefully, because this is not an ordinary story. This is a story about timing, unexpected connections, and a dinner table where a conversation began that nobody saw coming. Stay with me. Don't skip. Every detail matters, and as this story unfolds, you may discover that the smallest moments often lead to the biggest surprises. Last night, beneath the soft glow of evening lights, your soulmate sat across from someone at a dinner table. The atmosphere was calm. The restaurant was filled with gentle conversations, quiet laughter, and the sound of glasses lightly touching. To anyone passing by, it looked like a simple dinner. Nothing unusual. Nothing dramatic. Just two people sharing a meal. But what nobody realized was that this dinner would set the stage for a revelation that would change the direction of the story. As the evening began, your soulmate arrived carrying thoughts they had been unable to silence for weeks. Questions. Memories. Hopes. Dreams about the future. They smiled politely, took their seat, and looked across the table. The person sitting there seemed familiar. Comfortable. Trusted. Someone whose presence made honest conversations possible. And that is exactly why what happened next became so important. The conversation started with ordinary topics. Life. Goals. Everyday events. The kind of discussion people have when they believe nothing unexpected is about to happen. Yet hidden inside those simple exchanges was a single name that carried more weight than anyone in that room could imagine. A name connected to you. Don't skip. Stay till the end. This story is only beginning. As the meal continued, your soulmate found themselves speaking more openly than they had planned. They talked about lessons learned. They talked about moments that changed them. They talked about the person who had quietly occupied their thoughts during both their brightest days and their most uncertain nights. Without realizing it, they were slowly describing someone whose presence had left a lasting mark on their heart. The person across the table listened carefully. They noticed every pause. Every smile. Every shift in tone. And then, at one particular moment, they asked a simple question. Who is this person? The room seemed to slow down. Your soulmate paused. For a second, they looked away. Not because they were hiding anything, but because some stories are difficult to explain. Some feelings are difficult to put into words. Yet eventually, they answered. And when they did, something unexpected happened. The person across from them recognized exactly who they were talking about. Not vaguely. Not partially. Completely. A look of surprise appeared instantly. Suddenly, what seemed like a casual dinner became something entirely different. Stay till the end. Something remarkable is still ahead. The person sitting across from your soulmate leaned forward. They could hardly believe the connection that had just been revealed. Out of all the people in the world, out of all the possible conversations that could have happened that evening, somehow the discussion had led directly to someone they already knew. At first, neither of them knew what to say. They laughed. They shook their heads. The coincidence felt almost impossible. Yet there it was. Real. Unexpected. Unfolding right before them. Your soulmate became curious. Questions started forming immediately. What did this person know? How long had they known you? What experiences had they shared? What impressions had they formed? Every answer seemed to open another door, leading deeper into a story neither of them expected to explore. And the more they talked, the more surprising the connection became. What started as a simple dinner was no longer about food, schedules, or everyday life. It had transformed into a conversation filled with discoveries. Small details became meaningful. Shared memories became important. Tiny pieces of information suddenly connected together like parts of a puzzle that had been waiting for the right moment to be assembled. Don't skip. The most surprising moment has not arrived yet. As the evening continued, your soulmate listened closely. They heard stories they had never heard before. They learned perspectives they had never considered. And with every passing minute, they realized something important. Sometimes the world is much smaller than it appears. Sometimes people are connected in ways nobody expects. And sometimes an ordinary evening becomes the beginning of an extraordinary chapter. The dinner eventually moved beyond introductions and familiar stories. The discussion became deeper. More thoughtful. More reflective. Both people began sharing insights about growth, choices, and the paths that bring lives together. It felt as though the conversation was happening exactly when it needed to happen. Neither of them could have planned it. Neither of them could have predicted it. Yet somehow everything aligned perfectly. As the night grew later, your soulmate found themselves thinking about the future. About possibilities. About opportunities they may have overlooked before. About how unexpected encounters often arrive carrying important messages. And while the conversation continued, one realization became impossible to ignore. Some connections are stronger than coincidence. Some meetings happen for a reason. And some stories are only beginning when they appear to be reaching their conclusion. Stay till the end. The next chapter of this story is closer than you think. The lights outside the restaurant shimmered against the evening sky. People came and went. Conversations ended. Tables emptied. Yet your soulmate remained focused on the discussion unfolding before them. Every answer seemed to lead toward another mystery. Every revelation seemed to hint at something bigger waiting just beyond the horizon. The person across from them smiled and said something that immediately captured their attention. Something simple. Something unforgettable. Something that would stay in their thoughts long after the dinner ended. And as those words settled into the silence between them, your soulmate realized this night was far more significant than they had ever imagined. The story was no longer about chance. It was about connection. It was about timing. And it was about discovering that the world has a surprising way of bringing people, stories, and destinies together when the moment is right. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Because what was revealed next would become the turning point of the entire evening. To be continued. A strange silence filled the air after those unforgettable words were spoken across the dinner table. Your soulmate sat there, completely focused, because what they had just heard made everything feel different. The conversation was no longer casual. It was no longer just another evening. It had become a moment that felt almost impossible to ignore. The person sitting across from them looked thoughtful, almost as if they had been waiting for this exact conversation to happen. And then they said something that instantly captured your soulmate's attention. They said that every time your name came up, people seemed to remember you for one specific reason. Not because of something loud. Not because of something dramatic. But because there was something about your presence that stayed with people long after you were gone. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate immediately became curious. They wanted to know more. They wanted details. They wanted to understand why someone they knew was suddenly talking about you with such certainty. The conversation grew deeper. Every answer revealed another layer of the mystery. Every sentence seemed to unlock a door that had remained closed until now. The person across the table shared story after story, and each one painted a picture that your soulmate had never fully seen before. It was almost as though they were discovering a side of you through someone else's eyes. And the more they listened, the more fascinated they became. The restaurant around them seemed to disappear. The sounds faded into the background. Time felt slower. Their attention was completely fixed on what they were hearing. They learned about moments where your kindness had made a difference. They learned about times when your determination had inspired others. They learned that even when you thought nobody noticed, people remembered more than you realized. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because what came next completely changed the direction of the evening. The person across from your soulmate suddenly paused. They smiled and looked directly at them. Then they asked a question that nobody expected. They asked, "Have you ever wondered why this person keeps appearing in your thoughts?" The question landed like a stone dropped into still water. Your soulmate did not answer immediately. Instead, they sat quietly, reflecting on every moment they had spent thinking about you. Every memory. Every unanswered question. Every strange coincidence that seemed impossible to explain. For the first time that evening, they realized that perhaps there was more meaning behind those thoughts than they had ever considered before. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The conversation became even more surprising. The person at the table shared something they had never planned to reveal. They admitted that they had noticed a pattern. Whenever discussions about the future happened, whenever people spoke about important relationships, whenever meaningful connections were mentioned, your name somehow entered the conversation. Not intentionally. Not forced. It simply happened. Again and again. Almost as though your story was quietly finding its way into places where it was meant to be heard. Your soulmate listened carefully. Every word felt important now. Every detail seemed connected to something bigger. They could not stop wondering why all of this was unfolding on this particular night. Why now? Why here? Why this person? Questions filled their mind, but answers were beginning to appear. Then came the moment that changed everything. The person across the table leaned forward and shared a memory. It was a memory involving you. A memory your soulmate had never heard before. It was simple, yet powerful. It revealed something about your character that could not be faked and could not be forgotten. As they listened, your soulmate found themselves smiling. Not because the story was dramatic, but because it felt genuine. Real. Honest. And sometimes those are the moments that leave the deepest impression. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. As the evening continued, your soulmate realized they were no longer learning facts. They were learning meaning. They were beginning to understand why certain people leave lasting marks on the hearts of others. They were beginning to understand why some connections continue to grow stronger even when distance, time, and circumstances try to pull them apart. And most importantly, they were beginning to understand why you mattered more than they had ever fully admitted. The person sitting across from them noticed this change immediately. They could see it in the way your soulmate listened. They could hear it in the questions being asked. And they knew that the conversation had reached a turning point. The dinner was no longer about discovering information. It had become about discovering truth. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Outside, the night continued. Cars passed. Lights glowed. People moved through their routines without realizing that one conversation inside that restaurant was quietly changing everything. Your soulmate felt as though pieces of a puzzle were finally coming together. Small moments that once seemed random suddenly made sense. Conversations they once forgot suddenly felt important. Memories they had overlooked suddenly carried new meaning. And then, without warning, the person across the table said something that completely stunned them. They said, "You know, the most surprising part isn't that I know this person." Your soulmate waited. The silence felt endless. Then came the next sentence. The most surprising part is how often your story and their story seem to cross paths without either of you realizing it. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The words hung in the air. Powerful. Unexpected. Impossible to ignore. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate replayed those words over and over in their mind. They thought about all the strange timing. All the unexpected moments. All the situations that seemed ordinary at first but now looked completely different. The more they reflected, the more they realized there might be connections hidden inside events they had never paid attention to before. The person across from them could see that realization happening. They smiled and quietly nodded. It was as though they knew something your soulmate was only beginning to understand. The conversation slowed. Not because there was nothing left to say, but because some thoughts are too important to rush. The dinner was approaching its end, but the mystery was only growing stronger. Your soulmate knew they would leave that restaurant with more questions than answers. Yet strangely, that did not bother them. Because for the first time, the questions themselves felt meaningful. They felt like clues leading towards something important. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. As the check arrived and the evening began winding down, one final revelation appeared. It was small. Quiet. Easy to miss. Yet it carried more weight than everything that came before it. The person across from your soulmate shared one last observation. They said that sometimes the most important stories do not begin with grand events. They begin with ordinary moments that seem insignificant until much later. A conversation. A memory. A meeting. A dinner. Your soulmate sat silently, absorbing those words. Because deep down, they knew this dinner had become one of those moments. A moment they would remember. A moment that raised new questions. A moment that hinted at an even bigger revelation waiting just ahead. And as they walked away from the restaurant that night, one thought followed them all the way home. What if this dinner was not the conclusion of the story? What if it was only the beginning? Stay till the end. Don't skip. Because in the next chapter, a detail will be revealed that nobody saw coming, and it will make everything from this dinner night look completely different. The next morning felt different. Not because the world had changed, but because your soulmate could not stop thinking about the dinner conversation from the night before. Some meetings fade away the moment they end. Some conversations are forgotten before sunrise. But this one refused to leave their mind. Every word echoed louder. Every detail seemed more important. Every revelation felt connected to something much bigger than they had first imagined. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. As sunlight filled the room, your soulmate found themselves replaying the entire evening. They remembered the stories they had heard about you. They remembered the unexpected connections. They remembered the strange realization that someone they knew had spoken about you with such certainty and admiration. Yet one question remained unanswered. Why did all of this feel so important now? Why had this conversation happened at this exact moment? The more they thought about it, the more unusual it seemed. Out of all the people in the world, the dinner date had been with someone who already knew your story. Out of all the possible topics, the conversation had somehow centered around you. Out of all the possible outcomes, they had walked away feeling as though they had discovered something they were meant to discover. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Hours passed, but the feeling remained. Your soulmate tried focusing on other things. Daily responsibilities. Messages. Plans. Yet somehow their thoughts always returned to that restaurant table. It was as though the conversation had planted a seed that refused to stop growing. A feeling that there was more to uncover. More to understand. More to learn. Then something unexpected happened. Later that day, your soulmate came across another reminder of you. Not a dramatic reminder. Not an obvious one. Just a small detail. Yet it instantly brought the entire dinner conversation rushing back into their mind. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. At first, they laughed at the coincidence. But then another coincidence appeared. And another. Tiny moments. Small reminders. Little connections that seemed too perfectly timed to ignore. The more they noticed, the more curious they became. They began wondering whether they had been overlooking signs that had been present all along. For the first time, they started paying attention to patterns. Patterns in conversations. Patterns in memories. Patterns in the people around them. And every pattern seemed to lead back to one person. You. The realization felt impossible to dismiss. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Meanwhile, the person from the dinner date was having thoughts of their own. They, too, kept reflecting on the conversation. They kept remembering the way your soulmate reacted whenever your name appeared in the discussion. They remembered the curiosity, the attention, the genuine interest. And slowly, they began realizing something they had not fully understood during the dinner itself. This was not an ordinary topic. This was not an ordinary connection. Something deeper was happening beneath the surface. A story was unfolding. And everyone involved could feel it. Don't skip. Because what happened next surprised even them. A message arrived. Simple. Unexpected. Yet incredibly important. It was not the content of the message that mattered most. It was the timing. The timing felt almost unbelievable. The moment your soulmate saw it, they immediately thought about the dinner conversation again. They thought about the stories. The memories. The questions that remained unanswered. Suddenly, what had seemed like a completed chapter felt unfinished. A new chapter was opening. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. That evening, your soulmate sat quietly reflecting on everything. They realized that before the dinner, they thought they understood the situation completely. They believed they knew what mattered. They believed they knew how the story looked. But after hearing another person's perspective, everything had changed. Sometimes we think we know a story because we know a few pages. Then suddenly someone reveals the chapters we never read. And everything looks different. That is exactly how your soulmate felt. The pieces were beginning to connect. The picture was becoming clearer. And yet the biggest revelation had still not arrived. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. As the night continued, your soulmate remembered one particular sentence from the dinner date. A sentence that seemed ordinary at first but now carried a completely different meaning. The most important things are often hidden inside the smallest moments. At the time, it sounded like simple advice. Now it felt like a clue. A clue pointing toward something they had not fully recognized before. They started revisiting memories. Small conversations. Brief encounters. Moments that seemed insignificant. And suddenly they began seeing details they had missed. Details connected to you. Details that now appeared impossible to ignore. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The more they reflected, the more one truth became clear. Every story has turning points. Moments where everything quietly changes direction. Not because of one dramatic event, but because of a realization. Because of understanding. Because of seeing something from a completely new perspective. The dinner date had become one of those turning points. Not because of who was sitting at the table, but because of what was discovered there. The realization continued growing stronger with every passing hour. And then came another surprise. A conversation with someone else. Completely unrelated. Or so it seemed. Yet somehow, during that conversation, your name appeared again. Your soulmate could hardly believe it. Another connection. Another reminder. Another unexpected moment. At this point, even they could not deny it anymore. Something was happening. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The feeling became impossible to ignore. It was no longer about coincidence. It was no longer about random timing. It felt as though life itself was placing reminders directly in front of them. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But consistently. One reminder after another. One realization after another. One step closer to understanding something important. And with every step, your soulmate became more certain that the dinner date had revealed far more than anyone realized at the time. The conversation had not ended when the restaurant closed. It had continued inside their thoughts. Inside their questions. Inside their reflections. And now it was leading somewhere unexpected. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Late that night, as everything became quiet again, your soulmate sat alone with their thoughts. No distractions. No conversations. No noise. Just reflection. And during that quiet moment, one final realization arrived. The most surprising part of the dinner was never the fact that the date was someone you know. The most surprising part was discovering how many unseen connections already existed. Connections nobody noticed. Connections nobody understood. Connections waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. That realization changed everything. Because now your soulmate knew that the story was bigger than they first believed. Much bigger. And as they looked ahead toward the future, they felt something they had not felt before. Anticipation. Curiosity. Expectation. The sense that another revelation was approaching. A revelation that would explain why all these connections kept appearing. A revelation that would make the dinner date seem even more important than it already was. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Because in the next part, a hidden detail from that dinner conversation will finally come to light, and when it does, every clue, every coincidence, and every unexpected connection will begin fitting together in a way nobody could have predicted.